What was once a gaming white whale, a dream that could seemingly never be realized, is now one of the most celebrated and hyped ongoing series in the AAA landscape. And in just a few days, Final Fantasy VII Remake returns on brand new platforms for the very first time. Here's everything you need to know about the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox Series launch of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Launching on January 22nd, 2026 for the Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox Series S and X, and Xbox on PC, Final Fantasy VII Remake leaves behind its PlayStation console exclusivity after over half a decade. However, despite turning 6 years old later this year, this new release of the first chapter in the Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy project has a host of improvements over the version first released on PlayStation 4 back in 2020. Players on these new platforms will be able to pick up the slightly revised definitive version of the game, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which launched on the PlayStation 5 in 2021 and the Epic Games Store as well as Steam not too much later. Intergrade includes a host of improvements over the 2020 PlayStation 4 original, including sharper character models, revised lighting, and an overall smoother gameplay experience. In addition to the technical improvements made for the Intergrade version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, this release also includes a bonus DLC, Final Fantasy VII Remake Episode Intermission. Spanning about 5 hours of playtime, players will follow a side story taking place concurrently to the events of the main game, only now they'll be playing as the Great Ninja Yuffie of Wutai, with her own party member, new team-up attacks later seen in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and an incredibly fun acrobatic combat system. Plus, this DLC has a very challenging final boss, if you put the work in. But beyond the definitive version of the 2020 GOTY Contender, as well as its DLC it received, this version also sees some additional features to make the experience of playing through the game even more convenient for new players. First seen in the PC releases of 7 Remake and 7 Rebirth, players of Final Fantasy VII Remake on Nintendo Switch 2 and the Xbox consoles will now be able to speed through the story of Remake much faster. Thanks to a handful of early game boosts that can be toggled on or off to your liking, which include a head start that lets you hop into the game with your characters all starting at level 45, maxed out materia, endgame items, weapons, accessories, the ability to never take damage, having your MP and ATB charges always at full so you can spam spells and special attacks. Your damage output can always be 9999, and you can even give yourself a hefty sum of gil to spend as you see fit. If playing a JRPG or playing a Final Fantasy has ever felt daunting to you, you can rest assured that you'll be able to trivialize this RPG to your heart's content. But if power level boosts that essentially turn on God mode wasn't enough to expedite your playthrough and make it much more digestible, the game now also lets you toggle a fast forward up to 2x regular speed during cutscenes.
You gonna stand there and pretend you can't hear the plant crying out in pain? I know you can!
You really hear that?
Damn straight I do!
Get help.
And again, all of this is optional. Now, while this version of the game is doing nearly everything in its power to make new players feel welcome, you may be wondering, is this the place to start your Final Fantasy journey if you've never played any of the games before? Well, the short answer and the long answer are both yes. If you're not already aware, Final Fantasy is an anthology series where each numbered entry is its own story with its own world, lore, history, characters, and conflict. Summons, monsters, and spell names are shared between the games, but you do not have to play Final Fantasy 1 through 6 before playing Final Fantasy 7. But seeing as this is a remake, you may also be wondering, do you need to play the original Final Fantasy 7 to enjoy and understand Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade on your Nintendo Switch 2 or Xbox Series console? The short answer is no, you do not need to play the original. This game fully introduces you to the cast, world, and conflict of this story in an extremely endearing way. There's a real history to this world that comes across immediately upon stepping into it. Now, while the short answer is no, the long answer, without getting into any spoilers, is this project has been taking some liberties to change the story or update some things. If you want to appreciate what's different and then also theorize with fellow fans on why some things may be different, then yeah. But again, it is absolutely not essential to enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake as a video game on its own. This project, at the end of the day, is meant to bring this story, this cast, to a whole new generation of players. They want you to start here, and the experience of doing so is both painless and rewarding. I have seen countless players become Final Fantasy fans thanks to this game. And on the plus side, if you do care strongly about game history or imagine you'd want to check out the original after playing Remake to see where the storyline is going, thankfully pre-ordering or purchasing the digital edition of Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Nintendo Switch 2 or the Xbox platforms before January 31st, 2026 will also get you a complimentary download of the HD version of Final Fantasy VII, which has been available on numerous platforms for years now, and you can access it immediately upon purchasing the game. Now, speaking of purchasing, that's right, Xbox fans, you will not be getting Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on Game Pass. Thankfully though, the game is coming in at a reduced price of $39.99 US if you pick up the limited early purchase edition on either Xbox or Nintendo's marketplaces. The deluxe edition comes in at $59.99 US, which includes everything mentioned prior, plus armor, summoning materia, a digital art book, a mini soundtrack, and some other in-game bonuses. Now, it won't be too much longer before Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox Series owners will be able to finally experience one of the most celebrated games of the 2020s so far in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. But if you can't wait that long, or if you're specifically curious to see how the game looks and runs in handheld mode on the Switch 2, or how it performs on the Xbox Series S, right now, yes, as you're watching this, you can download a demo of the game. The demo lets you play through the game's opening hour, roughly, where Cloud and Barrett first join forces to bring their goals of environmental liberation to the tyrannical Shinra. The demo allows you to get just a taste of what has become my favorite RPG combat system of the modern-day landscape, culminating in a bombastic set-piece boss fight, and it's a great way to be first introduced to the world of Final Fantasy. So are you planning on picking up Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade for the first time on a Nintendo or Xbox console later this month? Are you going to be double dipping to have the game fully playable natively on a handheld like the Nintendo Switch 2? Regardless, be sure to let us know what your gaming plans are for Final Fantasy in the year to come, and for more on everything you can look forward to in 2026, be sure to stay tuned here and over on GameRant.com.